Around 50,000 years ago, in modern-day Iraq, a Neanderthal lived there with the scientific name of Shanidar 1. But archaeologists gave it an easier name, Nandi. If you remember the previous episode, we introduced Homo erectus to you guys, and they were divided into two different branches. One branch is the Neanderthal, and the other branch is the modern human, or Homo sapien. But first, let's get to know the Neanderthals. One thing all primates shared in common was that their life was very much in danger at all times, and if you're not careful, you will get destroyed. In the previous video, we talked about how Homo erectus discovered controlling fire, and after that, they left Africa and entered Asia and Europe. And that means Neanderthals were only found in Europe and Asia. And just like we said, Nandi's fossil was in modern-day Iraq. And that means they lived in colder climate, and that equals having a harder time surviving. Just like we said, their fossils have only been found in Asia and Europe. The ones that lived in colder climates, like for example, this jaw that was found in northern France, it lived in a very cold climate, and they had a hard time finding any food in that climate. Scientists can look at this bone and say that this Neanderthal died of starvation, and they believe it was because of the cold temperatures. In modern-day Croatia, in a cave called Krapina, and in this place, there was a family of Neanderthals that lived there. By the way the bones were damaged, archaeologists believe that a group of Neanderthals attacked this family in the cave, and they were eaten. So this is the reason that Neanderthals practice cannibalism. Even to this day, if there is an animal in that kind of a climate, they're gonna have a hard time finding food. Just imagine back then. But let's get back to our friend, Nandi. Just like other Neanderthals, Nandi came from the Homo erectus, so he knows how to control fire. He knows how to build and use tools. And he knows how to hunt. That's if he finds something to hunt. Around the places Neanderthal bones were found, they also found bird bone, and that shows us they used to hunt birds, cook them, and eat them. When scientists analyzed Nandi's skull, they realized that he was hit in the head plenty of times throughout his life, but he did not die because the bone naturally healed around the crack. Nandi lived a very hard life. His arm was broken and it healed extremely awkward. And when scientists look at this bone structure of a surviving Neanderthal, they can't imagine the pain he was feeling. A skull that fractured a few times, a hand that was broken completely off. There is no doctors, painkillers, or anything they could help, so it was a very painful life. One of the cracks on Nandi's skull shows us that he was also blind in one eye. And this is the reason scientists believe that his family helped him survive, because if that wasn't the case, he would easily die. But if he stayed alive, it means the people around him were smart and they knew how to take care of him. I'm not talking about open heart surgery, but at least stopping the blood or stopping predators from attacking him. At around that time, Neanderthals probably had access to a plant that helped them ease the pain, and that might be the reason Nandi was still alive after all those injuries. When people imagine a life of a Neanderthal, they think they go out on a group, attack a mammoth, and have plenty of meat for a long time. Some of them did have access to that much meat, and they could attack them with a group, but most of them weren't this lucky. A mammoth that was attacked was found in modern-day Germany that weighed 11 tons, and it was killed by Neanderthals. But Nandi didn't have access to mammoth because he lived in modern-day Iraq, and mammoths live much more north. The meat that was available to Neanderthals was mountain goats, and scientists believe that it was extremely impressive for a Neanderthal to hunt down mountain goats. It's not like today where you can just point a gun at them and kill them. Just because Neanderthals could hunt down mountain goats with ease shows us that they were much smarter than we think, because you needed strategy to hunt down a goat. Neanderthals also hunted down wild horses, and that's because in modern-day Syria, they found a skull of a wild horse that had a sharp stone jammed into it. Around the time we're telling the story of Neanderthals, Homo sapien or modern humans used to live as well. A Neanderthal has a much larger skull compared to the Homo sapien, but it's not any smarter. Neanderthals were much bulkier and they also had more power, but the Homo sapiens had something that the Neanderthals didn't, and that was a much more efficient body, and that also made it get smarter and smarter. Neanderthals used to eat a lot too because their body needed it. A Neanderthal man would probably have to eat 7,000 calories a day, and this is in a way where a Homo sapien needed as much as us, about 3,000 calories a day. Because of them needing this much calorie, made them eat whatever they found. Imagine all types of insects and all the meat you can find in an animal body. And the Homo sapiens would eat meat and fruits mostly. One of the biggest problems for Neanderthals is the amount of food they needed per day. And when a mother had a baby, they needed much more food to provide milk for their child. And providing this much food was a huge hassle. And alongside the Neanderthals, the Homo sapien are living a much easier life, and they don't need as much food as them. They need half the calories the Neanderthals need, and they don't eat as bad as the Neanderthal. The ancestors of Neanderthals and Homo sapiens, the Homo erectus, had wooden tools, but they don't fossilize like stone tools. And unfortunately, we don't know what kind of wooden tools they made. And this is the same thing for Neanderthals and ancient Homo sapiens. They made plenty of tools, but we don't have any access to them. The most amount of fossils found from people back then is mostly in caves. It's obvious they chose it for safety. Another reason was that it was warm and safe, but it was also safe from predators, especially when there was a fire inside the cave. If wood fossilized like stone, we would know much more about their ingenuity than we do today. The thing we found from ancient humans shows us that they would carve out animal bones and teeth into different objects, and they would even make jewelry type things. One of the many things people know about caveman is that they had a lot of caveman paintings, and they really showed their creative side. Nandi is living with his family, but sometime when they go hunting, they meet other Neanderthals, but sometimes they were confronted with other human type, and what we're talking about is the Homo sapiens. In most parts of the world, Neanderthals and Homo sapiens had a relationship, and they also mated. That is why if you analyze anybody's DNA on planet Earth, you will find a little bit of Neanderthal in there. Just like we said, Neanderthals evolved from the Homo erectus that came from Africa. But Neanderthals were not found in Africa. They were found in Asia and Europe. And what you're seeing here is the location of the fossils found of Neanderthals. And scientists say if you compare an Asian, a European, or an African DNA, the percentage of Neanderthal in the African DNA is much less. Homo sapiens and Neanderthals were so close that they could have children, and their children could have children. We can't 100% say what these two thought about one another, but a theory suggests that when they met each other, they really couldn't tell that if they're different or not. Maybe when a Homo sapien saw a Neanderthal, they would think it's just a different looking human, not a different type. But let's get back to Nandi, our champion today. After years of pain and suffering, Nandi eventually dies. We don't know how Nandi died, but the most interesting part is that Nandi was buried, and it was obvious it was a grave rather than an accident. But this is not the case only for Nandi. Plenty of Neanderthal graves have been found all over Asia and Europe. You might ask, why don't we talk about Homo sapien? It wasn't surprising for a Homo sapien to do it, but it's interesting when a Neanderthal did it. Either way, Neanderthals eventually go extinct around 30,000 years ago. Their population declines, and finally, the last one dies. It is not obvious why Neanderthals went extinct, but one of the main reasons Neanderthals went extinct is that they needed a lot of food. But providing all that food was damn near impossible. And that is why they were always hungry, and they slowly went extinct. But this is in a way where the Homo sapien is living a better life. It's getting smarter, and it's finding an easier way to live life. And that's us, the Homo sapiens.